He is the spokesperson for the United Opposition and leading the secretariat that's working behind the scenes to make this opposition truly get united. Actually, good morning.
Good morning.
Am I right? Is that what you're doing? Behind the scenes?
One of many things I'm trying to do.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Karibu sana to Fixing the Nation. We know there's a lot that's been happening recently in terms of politics, and we want to look at that. Following the death of Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the burial on Sunday and the outpouring of grief. Let's just start off with you. We know that you worked with Raila Odinga for many years. You're one of the young Turks, as we were told, even were reminded by Gitobu Manyara when he was here, and said, we worked alongside Kina Mukhisa, Raila, and others in just championing democracy in this country. How do you remember Raila?
Yeah, I've said a number of occasions recently that, first of all, I remember Raila as a human being, as a very warm person. And many times people confuse a abrasive political style with the personal character of an individual. I do remember him as a very, very warm human being and easy company. And secondly, his resilience, sometimes the struggle, particularly for the second liberation, police frustrations and harassment, reckless utterances by Moi and some of his lieutenants will make some people lose their heartbeats. But you couldn't discern that with Raila, that he was a very self-assured person in that pursuit. Three, that he was a go-getter. It is that many times in the early phase we were involved in a lot of strategizing. You're discussing what will be the direction to go. But when the direction is starting to emerge, Raila runs with it. Before you have to totally stitch it together, he's out there with it. I mean, and in a very similar way, like his announcement,
Kibaki
Tosha. We had reached that decision. We were waiting to persuade Mzee Simeon Nyachai to come on board before announcing that it is Kibaki. When we're in Serena waiting for Nyachai to arrive, Raila says Kibaki Tosha. And the nation thinks that that announcement was a decision to make Kibaki the presidential candidate. But that was very much his character. Yeah.
I like that. You take it and you run with it. There's a decisiveness that's needed in politics.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not all the time.
Not always. Yeah.
We now have the conglomeration of various political entities coming together. And you're calling yourselves the United Opposition. We know there's several parties. There's WIPA, there's the People's Liberation Party, there's the DCP, there's DAPK, there's the Democratic Party, and Jubilee.
And quite a few others in the pipeline.
And others, eh?
Yeah, quite a few.
That are coming on board.
Yes.
Right? Now, the first thing I want to start with is the statements that were made by the governor of Nyeri County, Mutahi Kahiga, which has drawn widespread condemnation, including from yourself as a spokesperson for the United Opposition. In a statement that you shared out yesterday, you said he deserves to be censored by the party that sponsored him to office, by the Council of Governors, and by the nation at large. Okay, what exactly did you mean by that?
You see, we're at a very difficult and dicey moment as a nation. Coming to the end of an era like a phase with very dominant presence of Raila Amolo Odinga. It's not a little matter to just push under the carpet. Emotions are still raw. And for a long time, there had been attempts by some deliberately to paint Raila as an enemy of the Kikuyu community. And by and large, the statements and actions of Raila himself, and more recently, the demonstrated sense of very personal bonds with former President Uhuru Kenyatta, have gone a long way in assuaging some of those nonsensical claims of ethnic strife between Kikuyu and Luo. Now, at that kind of dicey moment, it is extremely reckless for national interest, extremely irresponsible, and extremely stupid for a person holding high office to say such reckless and silly things like the governor of Nyeri did. And it's very, very important that we have to express our outrage at the mendacity of a person to say those kind of things, even if he's addressing a funeral in a village. Right. It's exposing a thinking or a line that has been propped up to present, which is of no benefit to any nationalist in this country. And as an opposition, we find it necessary that we clearly distance ourselves from this irresponsible and criminal conduct by a person in high office. And let the party belongs to own him and what he's saying.
This is where the issue comes in, Dr. Rizzo. Lately, Dr. Kahiga and others have been associating themselves with... Kahiga, Governor Kahiga and others have been associating themselves with the opposition side. Right? And even championing the leadership of DCP has people who are elected into office on UDA ticket. Now, when you come and throw him under the bus like that and say, you know what, in fact, he belongs to UDA, it just begins to ask yourselves, why would you do that?
You know, two things.
Are you saying that Governor Kahiga has never attended a United Opposition meeting and so on and so forth?
I have never met him. And thank God I haven't. And definitely there has never been any moment that I know of when in our discussions we have assigned any responsibility, an engagement, an invitation, an attention to that governor. So he may have in his plan of things planned that he will try to join the wave and move to the opposition at an appropriate time. But to the best of my knowledge, last time I checked, he was in Ruto's party. Yeah.
And that's where he belongs.
That's where he belongs.
So you're saying that the party ought to take action on
Let the party he belongs to show us that they're also outraged about his conduct and take necessary action.
What would you like to see the party doing?
I think a person who does such a terrible thing should be de-whipped. At the very least, but even more importantly, there should be enough pressure for him to step down as a governor. Nyeri County is a very important part of this country, and it holds a proud place in the history of this country, waving a struggle for liberation, but also producing some of the best leaders we've had, including the best president we've ever had. It besmirches the name and reputation of that county, that the person with this kind of moronic thinking is the face of its leadership.
Here's the thing. It is not the first time that Dr. Mutahi has said something that has rubbed a community the wrong way.
Governor Mutahi.
Governor. Nimesema?
Doctor.
Dr. Tena.
It's because we have Dr. Mukhisa.
But don't give doctor a bad name.
Sorry.
Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi. Governor Mutahi Kahiga. You know, they're almost the same.
They start getting mixed up. But yeah, the governor has been in the NCIC's basically, lens for similar statements that have enraged the Maasai community in the past. And we were also looking through to see if he has been summoned by the NCIC before. The thing is, there are really no proper ways to prosecute when it comes to matters, hate speech or things like this. What if the party, for example, takes action against him? That's fair. But then from any other perspective, what's the path towards, in your view, getting not justice, but basically...
But statements that are inciting disorder are criminally liable statements.
But it's a high threshold to prove. We've had that conversation with the NCAs.
But this is high enough. Yeah. Yeah, but at the very least... that person should not stand on a high pedestal politically and be speaking like the face of a county as prestigious historically as Nyeri.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the least that he should do is step down as governor.
If he doesn't step down, I think others should make him step down. Nyeri has enough MCAs to start the process of impeaching him.
Does that meet the threshold for impeachment?
The people are being impeached over very stupid little things. This is one of the best reasons why anybody should be impeached. Yeah,
that's fair. We have seen very, interesting impeachment processes. I'm thinking as a united opposition. So far, we've seen quite a number of leaders come out and say, you know what, we're in this for the long run. But we've seen also fractures within, for example, ODM parties, ODM and the leadership. And some sides are like, you know what, this was Baba's last wish, and as far as the party goes, and the others say no, he already had declared himself on this. As a united opposition, what is your safeguard for not being co-opted into Kenya Kwanza as we near closer to 2027?
But we are too big to be co-opted into Kenya Kwanza. And look at the country, and look at the numbers, look at the indications. Who co-opts who?
Give us the numbers.
They might purchase one or two individuals, but this phenomenon is much, much bigger than the Kenya Kwanza. So how can they? How possibly can they co-opt us? I think we have challenges. All political movements have challenges. Indeed, I dare share that I am seeing a kind of a deja vu. I went through this in 2001 when I was one of the people involved in putting together the team of NAC-NK, Kibaki, Charitingilu, Michael Malwa, that lieutenants to the principals can have very, very narrow ethnic chauvinist appetites, and some of them very vulgar language, and some of them very thin skins. But the process of molding together a coalition means you learn how to babysit some of those egos, how to carve out, how to smoothen some of the rough edges, and start building confidence. And we're very much going through a very similar thing. We're not coming from the same cloth politically as an opposition. I mean, initially we're only united because we oppose Ruto, but we must be united around a positive agenda, not a negative agenda. And to mold together that positive agenda entails a very substantial humbling for some who have narrow ambitions, very much slowing down those with a very, very large, ambitious agenda of what forming government should be about. And that is a dicey moment. But the more the public looks to us as a national solution, the more we see a responsibility that we should overcome this pettiness that you start seeing popping up between individual politicians and competing egos.
What is that? When you say, you know what, we are initially united against President Ruto, but now we need to get behind a positive agenda. Is there anything that's, are we working towards that agenda? Is there, what will be that core thing that is the united opposition's agenda? Do we have a clear,
I mean, it will be clear over time as we move along. I mean, you see that the first rallying point, the entry point has been that you are seeing that Kenya is better than to be run by the government in place right now. And then you have to ask why and what will you do to do better. So there are different kind of suggestions about what you should do. The envisaged salvation. Everybody has their own dream about what Canaan looks like. But then you have to start saying, now let us create a mosaic with tenable goals. There's very, very strong concern about reversing the disruptions in the education system, in the health system, cutting down to manageable proportions the level of public taxation, having stiffer penalties against corruption, and building a firewall against betrayal of collective commitment by individuals once you cross the River Jordan. Some of us are particularly driven by this style of politics. It is good that actually in many ways half of Kenya's problems is to remove this government. Suppose as bad as we can imagine that we could have. But then on day one, you must have a proactive agenda. That proactive agenda, apart from reversing some of what has been done, has to be, how do we make made in Kenya competitive again? When I was minister, Kenya accounted for 2/3 of the cross-border export of manufactured goods in East Africa. Today, we are a net importer. Enterprises that used to manufacture things in Nairobi's industrial area and selling in Dar es Salaam now set up shop in Dar es Salaam to export to Nairobi. We have exported jobs. And you are not going to industrialize because you go to China and say, now I want to make Kenya Singapore or from third world to first world. No. You say, what have I done that has reversed gains that I inherited from those others before? And one of those is made in Kenya is not competitive because of the high cost of corruption, because of distortion through irregular alignment between the energy costs and industrial needs, and because of all manner of bureaucratic red tape.
Tax
so
regime
these
is
are the different things that we have to mold into a positive agenda. And we are very working, burning the midnight oil to put this together. And we're going to share it with the country properly as we get started on a proper campaign. But right now, we're in the engine room of building a coalition that will hold together and that will be attractive enough with principles for others to join. I did mention that there were quite a few other parties at the door.
Yes.
But we just said, let us complete a document of principled commitment that there are bare minimums that every person signs up to as a code of conduct to be part of the leadership of this coalition.
Of the United
We are having a meeting of principles this morning. Immediately I leave this meeting, and we are fine-tuning that. On the basis of that, once existing principles have signed to this code of conduct, then we can start opening the door to others who want to come in, subject to concurring on those minimum code of conduct principles.
Okay. Just before you take over. Oh, sorry. You wanted to know the ethics? Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Some items in this code of conduct, like what would they be? What would be the minimums for one to be a member?
No, but I am going to be sitting before you and sharing with you the entire document after we are completed. So I don't want to
preempt.
To preempt.
You're preempting,
but
actually.
the principal thing is that there has to be an ethical threshold. And that means that we already have a firewall against persons like the governor of Nyeri.
Right.
Yeah, that you cannot just slam around with reckless, irresponsible utterances and kind of leave the opposition with egg in the face.
Yeah.
We have to try to see how can we safeguard this young baby from such recklessness, which is very, very common in Kenyan politics, particularly when people are doing funerals in the ethnic territory.
That's exactly. I want to come back into that, because we're talking about ethics. Ethics is something that we recognize that we lack and that we need. In fact, we even put it in our constitution. That's something that we need to live by. But politicians don't seem to live by it. You've been a politician for very many years. You no longer are going to those public rallies, but even when you were in the public rallies, it used to be very entertaining. The politicians around you who would come up and just see the mic and see the crowd and lose it. What goes through a politician's mind?
I can't quite penetrate all the minds. There's a certain level of inebriation before an audience sometimes, but I don't think that it necessarily leads to some of the more reckless statements that we get to hear. Sometimes there are small constituencies that like to hear some of those things, and though they are unpopular, many people have forgotten that we're not in 1990 where you could say one thing in the village and say a totally different thing in Nairobi. Today, every person in your audience has a camera. And a direct line to social media. So the hiding places are totally lost. We have seen how this has happened with the statements by Maalim Farah, with sentiments like the governor of Nyeri. So the thing is, there are two different things. One is ethical conduct in a way that borders on the criminal, and sometimes that is of inciting nature. But another different thing is just good manners. I mean, unfortunately, you cannot legislate against bad manners. And there's people who have to live with politically.
Try as we might. It's been anecdotal and very commonly said that, you know what, the only way that either the United Opposition or anyone wins in 2027 against President William Ruto is fielding one presidential candidate. So whichever factions exist within the opposition, there must be a really united opposition, almost 2002 style, right? Kibaki Tosha, that was it. Does the want to remove the current administration trump perhaps ethical challenges? Let me put it like this. If someone who doesn't fit into the code of ethics of the United Opposition seems to be the popular candidate for 2027 who could take the day, would you get behind him?
I will find it very difficult to see how a very unethical candidate by our own code of conduct finds his way or her way to the front of the queue. I'll be very surprised, and surprises are possible, but I'll be very surprised.
I would say look at our top leadership today. Sorry?
Yeah.
I know sometimes they say when the pot boils, the chaff comes to the top. And it is a risk we always run in politics, but also that persons can look one thing in campaign and totally another in the process of government. But we all the time are striving, can we find filters that can exclude the worst from being the face of us. I think that's a national challenge. But you should also understand that the united opposition is not just about the faces that you see today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of younger politicians at the door waiting to stake their claim.
Right.
To
Now
be
to know
part
about
of
those,
this
actually.
arithmetics.
Yeah. Just hold
We
on.
are engaging and we will continue to engage.
All right. Sorry to interrupt your statement. We just have to go on a short break because I'd love to thread on that, on some of the younger faces of the united opposition. And of course, we'll get into a lot more as far as this season that we're in, which is a season of change and shifting Kenyan politics after the passing of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But we'll be right back after this short break. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. 400.
We have very many fixers who are following us on NTV, on Nation FM, following our live stream on Facebook, on YouTube, and X, and also just contributing to the conversation. And you can contribute on what you think about the journey to forming a united opposition. Is it possible in this day and age? Do you have faith in the leadership that you're seeing that's coming together to create the united opposition? Do you have faith that they would actually even provide, if not government, then a credible opposition? Because it's one or two options, outcomes. It's either they form government, or if they don't form government, then they remain as the ones, the minority in parliament, not, or even maybe the majority in parliament, but not in the executive, but holding the executive then to account. And some clarification actually that's just come in on Dr. Mutahi Kahiga. He's actually a PhD holder.
Yes,
He's Dr. Mwalimu Mutahi Kahiga. So we were not wrong to call him Dr. Mutahi Kahiga. Dr. Kituyi, as we were going to the break, Mariam had asked, in this formation of the united opposition, who comes in and who leaves, and how wide is this door open to incorporate as many voices as possible, especially the voices of the younger population?
Right. The first founding leaders of the emerging opposition have been older persons with substantial, cumulatively substantial political experience, public management experience, and their public political appetite. But that does not make them exclusive owners of that ship. Our initiative is to create a safe landing space for people who are trying to craft a different Kenya. They come from different backgrounds. They have sometimes competing interests. But importantly, we should mention, we are not owning this exclusive to a certain set of individuals. Like I said, we are setting out principles. We are setting out procedures of other political parties being affiliated with this effort. We are setting out things we want to do together. We are soon announcing the coalition political party, which will be the main party around which the united opposition will be fielding presidential and some non-presidential candidates in the next election. But we are also very, very actively engaged in conversation between generations. There's some of us who have held substantially long historical engagement, for example, with leadership within the Gen Z. And we are talking with them. We're sharing discussions about what failed, what lessons do we carry from 2024, what value does that social media-based mobilization bring to a wider national political campaign? What are terms of engagement for more Gen Zs to be part of a larger mosaic of opposition politics? And similarly, millennials, who are very, very much active in public life right now, are part of the conversation. And I have met some of the key millennial political leaders in the past week as we were mourning Raila, and we are set to continue engaging with quite a few of them. The dynamics that change all the time. The passing of the sage of pro-democracy politics leaves a lot of political orphans who are pro-democracy on the wrong side of the divide. And what is the landing space for them to safely be at home where they ideologically belong? These are conversations that are ongoing. So it should not be seen like we have built Noah's Ark and we have closed off other animals to drown, in the floods.
When we think about it, from just the numbers point of view, Kenya is again 70% young. So then should it be that, you're building this ark and you're opening it up to the young people and to millennials are still young somehow, but yes, to everybody? Or should you be seeking an arc that is being built by young people?
We are building an arc, and young people can put their hands to the effort. It is a collective thing. It's not for one generation vis-a-vis another generation that each are building their own little thing and we stick them together.
But you get where I say, how does 30% of the population accommodate 70%? It's the other way around.
In every society, democratically, leaders are a political elite. Regardless of the age they come from, they are not the majority in a country.
True.
So it's like, for example, you can say that in many countries, majority of the population finished school, dropped out of school at secondary school level.
Okay.
So do you say democratically, people who dropped out at secondary school level should be the ones to offer political leadership in a country?
I would not.
There are dynamics that you must say. If 70% of the population of Kenya are younger people, the agenda of the younger people must be upfront in the concerns and the pursuits of whatever coalition you build in which they can see they are also at home. And the possibility of their active participation and offering of leadership and competing for any position in that coalition has to be appreciated because of their numbers. I will take that line more than to create an artificial contradiction that these are older people versus younger people. That is not the struggle. These are pro-democracy people versus the anti-democratic forces led by Ruto.
I like that. I like the framing of that, looking at it as pro-democracy and people who are pro-change and people who want a difference in governance versus those who don't. However, the truth of the matter is that the political class will always be the political class, and young people are largely excluded from the political class.
When I joined the Young Turks, when we formed the Young Turks...
I'm talking about now, not
no,
then,
wait. You have to make a principal statement about political class.
Yes.
When Kenya got independence, Tom Mboya, Mwai Kibaki, Gikonyo Kiano were between 28 and 31. They were thrust in there as part of the leadership of the country. The president was much older, more than double their age, but they were part of that team and they were in the engine room that made things work. When it came to second liberation, when we formed a team called the Young Turks, we were relatively young, many of us. I was the youngest by a country mile. We did not see that we were competing with Matibas and Oginga Odingas who were saying, can we sequence our steps in such a way that your legitimate aspirations for power and our drive for national renewal can find mutual accommodation? And I think that's a conversation that comes between generations. And that's the conversation that is relevant today. It was never Young Turks versus the oldies in our time. And it's the same today, that there has to be a conversation. It is not how old you are, but what you stand for, that we're interested in you. And we want to see that there are pathways for success and growth among young political aspirants. So that's an important thing. Similarly, the outrages of the moment have no generation. Look at what Ruto did the day Raila died. Ruto gets information early in the morning that Raila has died. He freezes off announcing to the nation that Raila is dead, goes and signs into law extremely punitive and primitive pieces of legislation before going to announce to the country that Raila has died. You are trying to use the cover of the emotions of the nation to sneak in draconian anti-democratic legislation. So including a law that if you make a statement on social media which upsets someone, you can be sent to jail for 10 years.
Yeah.
The first statement I want to make on the social media is to upset Ruto. Is that a crime?
Eric and I debated this actually. And to be honest, the conclusion, we came to is it was not as nefarious as is being made out to be. Because I don't think assenting to bills is something that you just do like that, right? It was probably on the president's agenda. I would love maybe if those are publicly shared.
Why can't he speak for himself instead of you speaking for him?
No, I'm just saying. You're
speculating on his behalf.
Speculating, yes. It's just speculating, but as are you. You're also speculating because it's you cannot confirm.
I'm stating a fact of what happened. You are giving an interpretation of why it happened.
No,
You're not stating a
Saying-
fact.
saying-
I'm stating a fact that
saying that he sneaked in.
he signed those things into law before announcing to the nation
Did he
that we're
sneak
entering
in the laws?
Yeah.
Why did he sign them the morning before he goes to announce the death of Raila?
Right. Do we know what his agenda was? I am not one to defend the president.
I would like that.
Yeah. I'm not here to
His
defend the
calendar
president.
for the day.
I'm just saying I don't know.
We can
what-
have a substantive discussion about those laws, and they're outrageous.
Yes, I think
they
that would
are.
be the
They have
more
very
important thing.
phenomenal impact in this country, and they should not be taken lightly. I'm very glad that the courts have already put some brakes on the
competition
cybersecurity
misuse,
and the misuse of social media, so-called act. But there's a lot also about removing oversight on the privatization of public land and property and parastatals. That you privatize. You can go into a hotel in Dubai and give away Gulana. Galana without referring to anybody else. So these are phenomenal things. We're pawning family silver by law without any oversight. And how can that be in the national interest? Why have all the leaders up to now not found it necessary to hide from public view the pawning of our family silver? These are important things. And these are things that do not have a generational value.
I agree.
They are cumulative
stay
public
there.
assets.
And that's why when we were going to the break, I was saying this united opposition is either going to be forming government at the executive and having a majority in the legislature, or it's going to have one or the other. It's going to not form government and maybe have a majority in the legislature or minority in the legislature. Either way, it's expected that leadership of, the united opposition will have people in parliament. People who are affiliated with the united opposition are currently in parliament. And the leadership of the united opposition is strong enough to see what's happening and raise a voice. We did not hear your voice sufficiently when these bills were going through process in the National Assembly.
All right.
When the bills were passed by the National Assembly, we did not see a statement like the one we saw yesterday from Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi condemning Parliament for passing this law called the privatization bill that is going to, like you say, just auction off our family silver.
All right. I have to admit that there has been a lapse. There has been a weakness somewhere. At a personal level, I confess, I did not follow this at all. I have been out of the country for slightly over 20 days. And I think this legislation was being passed in that period. I did not capture it on my radar as a spokesperson of the opposition to flag them. But then on another level, we cannot say that the members of parliament who pass this legislation are going to be our members of parliament. We are outraged at the ability of parliamentarians to surrender to the executive their authority. That you pass legislation saying we will stop scrutinizing what you are doing in the sale of public assets. That is a statement of a failed parliament. And many have said it before. This is the worst parliament that Kenya has had since the Mulolongo parliament of 1989. And I don't see that it is obvious that a lot of those persons are going to come back.
Right.
Certainly not from the areas where our opposition is growing, as it were. And these are some of the reasons why they are disqualifying themselves as potential leaders within the team that sees an alternative Kenya.
Let me see if I'm getting you right. That some of the current members of parliament, if they came seeking tickets and sponsorship from parties within the united opposition, they should be denied.
No.
The vote.
Or they will be denied.
I think
Will
the
they
voters
get-
are seeing, the voters are being able to see the difference between the chaff and the grain. And some of the things like letting this executive overreach be legitimized by sitting members of parliament will be one of the things that will lead to certain recalls. And in the competition between candidates, some of these parliamentarians will meet people out there in their villages who say, where were you when parliament was doing this? Some of them speak at funerals, but you never hear them say anything in parliament. And they have to justify themselves as potential candidates. I'm not saying we're going to say now, you have been in that parliament, we cannot make you a candidate.
Why not?
You are going to compete with others, and we hope that we can get the best candidates to represent
Dr.
the
Mukhisa
opposition.
Kituyi, then you're not different from what we currently have. this united opposition then is not presenting anything different for the future. You are currently working on and burning the midnight oil, as you told us, on a document of principal commitments.
Yeah.
Yes.
A code of conduct.
Yes.
That looks at ethics, that looks at performance, that looks at all those things. So why would you have such a document and still open the door for a failure in leadership?
There is a failed parliament
nomination?
which has some good parliamentarians.
Yes, but
I can
if
point
for
to this
example,
parliament as having
if the
some
member
very
of
good
parliament
So the
persons.
question
who
I'm
sponsored
asking,
these bills,
will the united opposition be expected to vet these leaders and say, if you participated, for example, in voting yes for the Finance Bill 2024, we, on that basis alone, cannot give you a ticket.
if
to
you're the
be our
member of
candidate?
parliament who sponsored the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Amendment Bill, then we are locking our doors to you. If you're the member of parliament who sponsored the private, actually that was a majority from
Yeah, it was from government.
It was from government. But
No,
yes,
but
like that.
it is the work of the majority leader in parliament to be the principal mover of government bills.
So then would they be
that does not represent any individual MP, it represents State House.
But
Fair.
the MPs who voted.
Yeah, MPs who voted for it.
Yes.
Now
And
the thing
the
is that
Computer Misuse Amendment
I am
was
not
privately
going to be I'm not going to be the sir of a principal at the gate of opposition candidature saying you said this in parliament, you are not qualified for this. We are still involved in internal dialogue about how to balance between democratic inclusion and sieving out unwanted characters. And that's not an initial matter that you can settle in a conversation on live television. Some of those things have to be worked through. I mean, some of the people who have to make those decisions are not angels themselves. So you'll bear with me that this is a political movement, and it is never perfect. We have some guiding light, but we don't always get there. Sometimes we are short of the measures we desire because of compromises that have been made politically. But the direction of motion has to be clear about what kind of nation we want to bequeath to the next generation.
I hear you, and I completely understand the balance that you, as the spokesperson and as the driver of the engine room, has to make in terms of such statements. But the country, Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi, has spoken. The country, from the outpouring of emotion and people going out to the streets last year and this year, has spoken. They're saying, we want better governance.
Yes.
We want an accountable leadership in this country. We are setting a threshold for what we want. Whereas the people will make that ultimate decision at the ballot, then such structures as political parties also have to come up with sieves and proper sieves, right? And they should be based on such principles that if you have, for example, been convicted in a court of law and a sentence been passed in a court of law, yes, you're still going through the process, but we cannot give you a ticket to vie on our banner. If you participated in, for example, making utterances in the public, like you said, you do not really deserve our ticket, and we can use that as an excuse.
If you have sponsored bills that are considered punitive or draconian, then you don't deserve our ticket.
And the people have spoken that these are punitive. The courts have also agreed that this is an unconstitutional law, maybe. Then should there not be such principles? Even if you say that we're not going
I see it as an interesting point of engagement about what is the threshold of the principles of good candidates. But I cannot make that ruling. I can continue that conversation in a pragmatic way within a very dicey coalition building exercise, but I cannot a priori set out the high hurdles that have to be crossed by individuals. But I get the direction you're moving, and it makes sense that conversation has to be grown.
Let me take you back in time a little bit to 2001.
Yes.
And the formation of the Rainbow Coalition. Walk me through the different factions that were there and how they came to form a coalition as large as Rainbow.
All right. First of all, there was a principled commitment that we desired, that we had taken lessons from the previous three elections, the previous two elections. In both 1992 and 1997, the opposition won more than 60% of the votes, even the presidential votes. But Moi formed government. And then we said, we have been giving it away ourselves.
Yeah.
You are saying that if it is not me, then I'd rather Moi. by not considering the possibility that another person in the opposition can form leadership and you're part of that team.
Yeah.
So that's the foundation of that conversation. But then we said, with some assistance from professional team builders, let us first open the improperly healed wounds and clean them up before we stitch up. We cannot just cover dirt in the name of solidarity.
Yeah.
So what did that entail? It entailed a number of internal retreats of 3-4 days, a lot of them happening Aberdares, where we were bloodletting. I remember, for example, Matu Amai saying, we the Kikuyu have the numbers and we have the money. People like Luyas, we'll not forget you are working with us, we'll give you something. And Martin Shikuku going livid, and Noah Wekesa threatening to go out. There were those kind of things. But we say, okay, let it play out. There's still enough time to bring this to the surface, clean it up, and make these people actually see mutual respect is the best way to go forward. Secondly, we had the privilege that the ANC, the government of South Africa, offers a facility to us. 6-8 top leaders within the opposition. We retreated to Johannesburg for a week, staying at the ANC guest house, courtesy of the ANC of South Africa. And
this I've never actually had before.
And it was basically a bonding trip. We were going out to a Hugh Masekela concert together. Right. We were in a nightclub where Kituyi will take the microphone and sing Malaika to a standing ovation. And we were doing all manner of things, but basically, get used to the smell of each other. Yeah, let's
spend time together.
Yeah, humanize the other.
Yeah.
If you have been fighting politically, you dehumanize the other as a threat.
Right.
But if you are spending more time together, you start learning the humanity of the other, the frailties and the strengths, the principle and the aspirations, and
the
acknowledge the legitimacy of each one of us.
Right.
We went through that process, and it was very, very important for the NAC-NK. That is what brought us together, and on the brink of announcing Kibaki as our candidate when KANU was unraveling.
Yeah.
So by the time KANU unraveled, primarily it unraveled because President Moi stuck with Uhuru Kenyatta as his candidate against the wishes of Saitoti, Raila, Mudi Awori, Gumo, Kalonzo. So they built a vessel to sail off that mothership.
Yes.
And both of us knew that we don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. That now they become a third force and we compete against each other and against the KANU candidate. So the land experience that we had been building in NAK informed now a rapid engagement over a very short time, which eventually was to translate into tensions within government, that we did not do sufficient bonding with the team leaving KANU the way we had done ourselves internally before their arrival.
Okay.
So to my mind, after the hiatus of the initial phase now, the critical thing for opposition is confidence-building measures among key players and aspirants to start seeing that the cause is larger than any person, individual there, and larger than the appetite of anybody. And there's enough space and opportunity for everybody to have realization of achievement, even if you are not the president. So long as you help create the next government.
I'm really glad you've given us that context, because the recipe is what we need, right? So if truly we are to change things in the coming few years, then the recipe is what we need. We've done it before, albeit differently, but we need to do it again. The recipe is what's needed. So thank you so much for sharing. We'll be back in just a moment and continue threading on this conversation, seeing what the united opposition looks like now, all the different ways it could change in the coming few months, years, as we continue threading on this. Hashtag Fixing the Nation NTV. We'll be right back. Petra. But let's get into the comments. I'm looking at a few on YouTube right now. This is Paul Maina, aka Staki Mapepe, says, good morning, Mariam Eric and Dr. Kituyi. In terms of governance principles and strategies, Daktari's is top notch. How I wish they come up with a blueprint that can turn around our economy. Peter Otenyo says, good morning, fixers. Only emphasis, or on major changes of the constitution, then those will support deeper changes, not just replacing individuals. Change the map, then the true way can be found. Is the constitution the problem? He's saying the map is the problem. Really?
No, I think there is something they have there.
Really? Okay.
You know, we believe very much in the need for a democratic and inclusive government in the architecture of our constitution. But as we stand today, after 15 years of the 2010 constitution,
right,
genuinely we have discovered that we did not do an economic audit of the constitution. The Kenyan tax base cannot afford the pyramid of political offices that we have created.
Yeah.
So there's no sustainable economic future for Kenya without reducing the cost of political government.
And that's a really good point, and we'll talk about actually the plans for that, as well as for turning around our economy, as Paul Maina has talked about, but seeing a lot of questions around maybe the legacy of Baba. Kikombe is asking, between fear, respect, envy, and jealousy, which one do you think made Baba more revered? Did people fear him, respect him, envy him, or were they jealous of him? Or is it all those things combined?
I think respect and envy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those would be the...
Yeah.
I probably agree. Yeah.
The bigger issues there. You were telling us how you worked on, behind the scenes in creating that coalition in 2002.
Yes.
A lot of work had been done in creating the NAK, the National Alliance of Kenya, which are DP, NPK, Ford Kenya, and others coming in. And then the KANU Renegades, I call them the KANU Renegades, coming out with the LDP and then working with Simeon Nyachai or Ford people to form the Rainbow Alliance. And then all of you coming together to form this. There was a lot, like you said earlier, there were many egos to massage. There were many ambitions to either uplift or to contain. And working in all that, what lessons from there are you using now as you work to create a united opposition?
The first major lesson is that if you see beyond the narrowness of personal ambition, actually wielding a team together and with a shared purpose of positive change can work, because it worked. We had more differences, and there was much more ethnic tension in the alliance building in 2000 to 2002 than there is today.
Right.
We did not have a cross-cutting generation like Gen Zs who are driven by a very, very patriotic and detribalized agenda.
Right.
Yes.
That fuel did not exist in our vehicle, and we succeeded. So conditions today are more imperative, more possible. The tools of mobilization are more visibly available. The experience of history is more demonstrable that it can be done than it was there. I'm very optimistic on the basis of this.
So then this is yours to lose.
I think so.
Even in 2002 and 2001, as you were forming this, you were facing a formidable opponent.
Yes.
In the structure and party of KANU and the person of Daniel Arap Moi.
With the near monopoly of disposable resources.
Yes. Do you feel that the current opposition is formidable enough? This is President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, and even the working arrangement that he has with ODM.
I don't think at any time of his tenure, Moi drew more negative energy from the public than Ruto does today. So the anti-Ruto constituency is larger than the anti-Moi constituency ever was in the period that we're competing with him. So that's a very important thing that you should see.
Is it larger or louder? Because I was not politically active, barely there, but what you do here is that there was just a lot of silence around the time, right? You feared whispering about President Moi because you don't want to end up in Nyeri, you don't want... Every other third person is apparently a spy.
Yeah.
Moi has ears everywhere. Yeah. So is it that the anti-Ruto constituency is bigger or that it is louder now? Because could people say that they were anti-Moi?
I think it is both. We did rallies, and it was very, very clear that people were very much for change, and particularly there were energies when they saw the opposition was genuinely meaning it, that it was getting together to be one. But today, I see a much more cross-cutting, trans-ethnic sense of betrayal more than we did in 2002. So the kind of the building blocks of an alternative political leadership are much more evidently available today than they were in 2002.
Okay.
If I look at what was happening on Sunday during the burial of Right Honorable Raila Odinga and the ODM leadership and how they were speaking, and in fact we had it in our headlines yesterday, they appear split. That it's not clear from the leadership of ODM whether they want to field a candidate in 2027 or whether they want to support the current president in 2027. Is that ground for the united opposition to take advantage of or to fear?
I don't think that you should be in a rush about taking advantage of something. I think for the united opposition, it is still early days yet in sharing our solidarity on the passing of a sage of opposition politics. That we cannot wish away. I mean, however much government can attempt. Raila embodies values that the opposition stands for much more than incumbents in government.
Yeah.
Of course, there will be a number of succession battles within that political party. You know, in Fiji, they have a saying that a powerful politician is like a big fig tree. When it grows, it has such a large canopy that no other growths can gain ground to be trees. And when it falls, it leaves bare ground. So there will be a substantial challenge to fill the gap in leadership of Luo Nyanza first and foremost. As to whether ODM will survive as ODM across the country, that was already getting stressed before Raila took his final bow. And I think it will even be much more dramatic. So territory is exposed when new alignments will be formed. Depending on the character of succession in Luo politics, we'll be able to say what section of the emergent leadership in Luo Nyanza heads to Sugoi and what heads to the opposition.
Right. Let's talk retrogressive politics, as the president called them recently, talking about opposition leaders snubbing Mashujaa Day celebrations, in his words. Let's listen in actually to what the president had to say, and then we can hear Dr. Kituyi's point of view.
Maneno ya zamani ya kusema sijui bomwe, sijui betwe, Ukambani ikabaki nyuma, haitatendeka tena. Nasikia hata kuna wengine wanajaribu kueneza siasa ndogo ati maskini jeuri. Iko maskini jeuri ya kufanya nini? Hakuna umaskini itabaki hapa Ukambani. Tunataka tuungane, tushirikiane, tufanye kazi kwa pamoja.
Okay. The president spoke about, basically kukaa ngumu, despite, even when it should be a national moment. Do you agree with his sentiments? Or?
I disagree with Ruto on a number of things. First of all, he's continuing the heavily trodden path of promising heaven and delivering nothing. Where is the budget for the tarmac roads he was promising in Kituyi when he was there now? If he's saying they are against poverty, where has he been since he became president? Does he wait for Mashujaa Day in Kituyi to start saying that tarmac roads have not been done in Kituyi? The last time I checked, there's 100 million shillings that's available on one of the assigned roads, the commission of the Kibwezi to Kituyi Road. That is not sufficient to do a quarter of the work available. Similarly, he is promising that the national government is going to do stadia in every one of those counties. Where is the budget for it? These are things he says and forgets to say them when he comes next time. Say, tumeamua, tutamaliza umaskini Ukambani. By what magic wand will Ruto just come and say, poverty, take a run? Now Ukambani is becoming, what public investments, what employment opportunities, what capacity building on the intelligentsia of the area, what unlocking of the energies of the producers of nothing. Political rhetoric. Now, to accuse opposition for failing to go and sit there and listen to those lies is to rather strain our intellect. There are times when you can listen to leader. Listen, they have been playing back the speech by Raila during Shujaa Day, I think it was in Nyeri, when he was recounting the heroism of the struggle for national renewal, what role leaders from Nyeri did, what commitments they had, and how they can inspire Kenya going forward. Yeah. This is the stuff of remembering Mashujaa and dedicating ourselves to the goals that Mashujaas are fighting for. Yeah. Ruto is not capable of comprehending what a liberation struggle has been. He has been a beneficiary of struggles he has never been contributing to. And therefore, he cannot be the rallying point for us to go and listen to on Mashujaa Day.
He cannot be the rallying point to us to listen to. This thing became much larger than it needed to be honest. But before I even get into the opposition part of it, what you've fought back against, is that not just how Kenyan politics has been done time and again? You go to a region, you promise development, close to the election, you give a quarter of the promises, and then we rinse and repeat the cycle.
The Kibaki presidency in which I served as minister never did that. I went to the president out of the country, and he told people what were the challenges we had. If he was to announce something, it's something that has already been passed in cabinet and overallocated a budget for it. Like buying back KCC from the Mois and returning it to the farmers, and the structure of guaranteed minimum price for milk as an incentive for going back to grow dairy. These kind of things. Not just going and announcing kutoka Karabatula itabitikia Motogashe. Even that are stalled, by the way. Yeah. That famous rattled road from Mandara, ask him to announce it again. Because we know the failure of Kenya government to put in its budget counterpart funds for the completion of that road has stalled. The World Bank has frozen financing. So he will leave State House before Mandera to Isiolo has been completed.
Like what I was saying, the nature of our politics, though, is that people lap up to such promises.
They have for a long time done that. I don't think they are all doing that anymore. A lot of the people listening in are just in the theater of the absurd. They're listening to interesting drama, but they know that it will go when the guest goes. Yeah.
You know, that was the argument actually before 2022. Many people are saying, you see, this deputy president and all the promises he's making, Intayeka fund, Hustler fund, to take 50 billion, to take 100 billion, to Rajenga state to take 200 billion. People are saying, yes, as a campaigner, a candidate for president,
yes,
and those on the other side were saying, people can clearly see through him, he can't deliver all these things.
Yeah, Matiang'i was saying it very nicely.
For him.
Matiang'i was warning Kenyans very nicely.
Yeah, even the president was saying, you're being lied to, but people voted for such.
So now they are coming to a point where I say, no, look at the consequence of your listening to those lies. Can you now think again? You have another opportunity.
And like you said, there's a new generation that should be getting into voting that has not, been brought up that way of buying and going by such rhetoric. I want to ask the question, in the last elections, the majority of voters were above 35 years old. Against the expectation that a majority of voters would be the younger. They didn't register to vote, and those that had registered to vote, 8 million of them did not turn up to vote. There is now a target for an extra 6 million, at least by now, to register to vote. Is the United Opposition doing anything to actually captivate the inspiration of this generation to, one, register to vote and participate in the election? And what are you doing?
Yeah, we have started in a small way, perhaps a bit slowly, on mobilization for voter registration. It's going to gain momentum. The problem with Kenyans is that they always leave it late. But internal teething problems in building an organization, setting up a secretariat, setting up the differentiated functions and operational resources has slowed down the uptake of this critical voter registration exercise. But I see that as a major undertaking over the next half year particularly, to unlock the younger voters. Secondly, I think we're seeing a shift from cynicism to engagement among younger persons. Those who said, whatever they promise, they don't do, so I better just leave it politics to the dirty politicians. And they're seeing others who are saying, my vote counts. My comrade fell in June in 2024. It can't go for nothing. And we are counting on that spirit to not only turn out more younger persons to register as voters, but to take ownership of a campaign for a better government that can be more sensitive to their concerns. And that's the hope I have about increased younger voter registration, but also participation in the political space.
What political messaging do you think you need to get these people to register and to participate in the election beyond Ruto must go one term and such other slogans?
Yeah, but I have told you that Ruto must go and one term were entry points in a long journey towards a national democratic renewal. And the most important message that we have to keep is we are engaging with all generations of Kenyans of goodwill to mold an agenda that is tenable. Stem the decline of Kenya, renew our national pride, and reboot our ability to utilize the intellectual capacity and the energies that we have among our younger Kenyans. And that a minimum necessary condition for launching this is that we have to go through an electoral process and win.
Very true.
And that is the message. We give the space, they on their agenda, and we deliver on the goals.
Okay. Maybe you had answered this in a different form, but is the United Opposition ready to absorb the potential ODM orphans who may be left?
A lot of the people in ODM are ideologically closer to Kituyi than quite a few of the people I work with in opposition. So I don't think that we will see them in any way as strangers coming in the house. I think typically mainstream ODM belongs with us.
I wonder which one is the mainstream ODM now.
Is it the ODM that carried part of the spirit they took with from Fort Kenya of 1993 and have grown with it?
This would be Sifunas and Babus and...
I will not start giving names of individuals.
ODM Asili.
But there is a section of ODM which has had a national appeal. They did not have a national appeal because they were campaigning to make people get into Ruto government. They had an appeal because they stood for the values that made them the leaders of the opposition. And we have gone through a gray zone when their leadership was interrupted within the opposition. But the DNA of those who were in solidarity as we build the anti-Ruto efforts, that DNA belongs together with us. And we can't wait to embrace them and say our journey continues in the memory of a great leader of democratization in Kenya.
Okay. There's a question here that is slightly off topic, but I think still very important. This is Rahimtullah Omar asking, ask the former Secretary General UNCTAD what he thinks about the Gen Z protests around the world.
You know, in a large way, Gen Zs that have triumphed around the world were inspired by Kenyan Gen Z.
I would hope so.
Yes. If you look at the wave of Gen Zs who have toppled governments from Bangladesh,
Madagascar,
Nepal, Madagascar, they all came after the triumphal work of the Gen Zs in Kenya. So you can say Kenya, as usual, offered global leadership on new frontiers, and our Gen Zs were on the forefront of this. We stifled it before it reached its logical conclusion. But we have not killed the spirit, the energy, the determination, and the reasons that brought them together.
You said you have been meeting with some of the Gen Zs, some of the leadership of Gen Zs, and somebody who worked in politics as a young person, speaking for the young people then, you'd understand more what they're saying. What are they telling you? What is their desire?
A number of fundamental things. First of all, stop treating us as children. We're adults. We're the beneficiaries of the free education of Mike Kibaki. And we know what goes wrong, and we have an idea of how things work where they have worked well. And we don't want to vote with our feet to leave our country to look for opportunity. We want to correct Kenya and people look for opportunity in our country. Just enable us to realize our potential in leadership with the diverse fields. Make Kenya work. And this is the message I get.
Concise.
Similarly, a lot of the Gen Zs that you have in political action are coming out of grassroots civil society networks, the Citizens Justice Committees in Mathare, in Kibra, and other places, they, like some young lawyers, like Wanjiru, they confront the reality of dehumanized living conditions for a lot of the people they work with, a lot of the people they try to assist. And they already are doing something, but they say, if state power was on our side, we will achieve this much better. So we want to be part of an engagement that delivers state power to the pursuit of justice and inclusion, sensitivity to the grassroots networks, particularly in informal settlements, particularly the dehumanized conditions of those who have been left to mire in poverty. So they have felt experience, and it's important to inform politics much more than intellectual persuasion of persons who don't live through this reality.
Have any of them told you Fagia Wote?
About Fagia Wote? Yes, I've heard that. Yes, I have.
What do you tell them? Because when they say Fagia Wote, they mean even you. You and the current cabal of leaders in the United Opposition, all of you out.
Yes, I tell them that that's a reality of one political thinking. You can try it, maybe it can work, but maybe it cannot. Now, if you have tried and it has not worked, you say, maybe I have to make solidarity and alliances between generations, and maybe our challenge is not a generational challenge, but a national challenge.
An ideological one as well. I want to, just as we wrap up, I want to speak now a little bit to the Daktari on matters trade. Give me quick wins that we could have as far as increasing our presence trade-wise, reducing our trade imbalances with some of our biggest partners. Just some very quick fixes that could see us, basically get back to our position as a regional.
You know that AGOA disciplines that have been allowing us the largest export of textiles and other things in the US are dead. Although there is a one-year extension in the budget that has been frozen in Congress, in the Senate. That might come through. But fundamentally, what does it mean? Kenya's trade expansion potential lies in the continental free trade area of Africa, much more than in the US. And what does it mean? Address the incompetencies that have crept up in the last decade on competitiveness of made in Kenya, so as to start by winning back market share in East Africa, expand it beyond East Africa, and target the continental trade as the main driver of a renewed trading regime. If you conquer your neighborhood and become competitive in Africa, you are competitive enough to now to enter other developed markets.
Right.
But just going around and saying open doors for us is not good enough.
Right. Also the bargaining power that comes with perhaps even going to the international market as a bloc, as an African Union, as a East Africa, as opposed to Kenya knocking on the door.
Yeah. I mean, we were making a little funny thing that we were thinking America will give Kenya bilateral free market access because we are best friend outside NATO. But this was juvenile inebriation. I think it is not worth much attention.
Thank you so much.
Juvenile inebriation. Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi, the spokesperson for the United Opposition, working as the leader of the secretariat that's putting together that United Opposition. You're going for a meeting now.
Yes.
With the principals.
Yeah.
Still working on this. We'll call you back here. We want to see this United Opposition movement and whether it's actually representative of the wishes of a majority of Kenyans. But thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to talk to Kenya.
Asante sana. We'll be right back discussing matters ability. Yeah, we're not saying disability, with Frida Kirema, who will be talking to us as a road safety champion and a paraplegic.